Yes, once again, we are continuing with chapter 12, the last chapter of medical practice N5. So today we want to talk about how linen is safety, methods of saving linen, the relationship between the medical secretary and the doctor. So linen, what are those things that we identify under linen? And we talk about the appointments, the relationship of medical secretary with patients, how should it be like, and all those things. So linen class, it consists of towels. We are talking about cloth material, which is including, we are saying towels, it can be sheets, pillowcases, overcoats, and assistance uniforms, and gowns also for the patient must be examined. So linen, we are talking about every clothing material that is used on the beds and also by the patient. When linen is sent to the laundry, an original list must be attached. The list is actually just a checklist. A list is basically a checklist that is actually supposed to be there in order to understand and ensure that nothing is lost, and whatever is lost or is misplaced can be tracked. It must be regularly checked and meant if possible, and make sure of sufficient linen in stock. So this is just, for example, we are saying it's a control control checklist, which we actually say that it is used in what? In keeping inventory. For inventory, for our records keeping, it helps to avoid loss, it avoids shortages, it ensures accountability, it ensures tracking. So methods of saving linen must be covered with towel, pillow must be covered with a towel, and change cases regularly. A patient must be handed a gown if when arriving for examination, especially if he returns on a daily basis. There must be a gown that a patient is given. Basically, this helps to identify the patient, helps also for security reasons that when the patient is at hospital, everything is kept clean. We are able to distinguish between people from outside and all those people who are also within the health facility. So gowns are there for is identity and uniformity, and as well as helping in administrative purposes. Towels must not be used for drying yourself, and patient must be taken out in the presence of the patient. So we are saying towels must not be used for drying yourself. As to say, you as a medical secretary, you don't use the towels in the facility to just mop and clean yourself. But again, they must be used to assist the patient. Patient, they must, and clean linen must be taken out in the presence of the patient. Then when you are giving a patient linen, you don't just take from the from the bedding or whatsoever, but it must be taken. So therefore the patient must identify and confirm that it's clean. It is clean. That also helps to give the patient a comfort, and also to ensure that the patient remains uh, loyal and good to the hospital. Removing stains cannot be prevented since blood samples are taken regularly. Removing stains. Linen can have stains, cannot be prevented since blood samples are taken regularly. Warm water and soap may remove only some stains, and other stains should be removed by strong detergents. We are saying hospital linen must always be kept clean. No matter that blood samples are regularly taken, it is important that the blood stains or whatever type of stains that are on linen are removed. If ever they are not removable or they are strong and difficult to remove, we are saying strong detergency must be used in a way so therefore we take away those stains. Relationship of a medical secretary and a doctor, that's also another point to take note of. It must be professional. There must be a professional code of conduct between a medical secretary and a doctor. Show interest in doctor's work, be friendly at all times, and must be loyal to your work and adopt to doctor's preferences. This helps to ensure that there is a smooth flow of work. If there is an unprofessional work relationship, it also stifles and also causes some problems with regard to service delivery. This rendering of services becomes quite difficult and complex. So a medical secretary must always be loyal to his or her work and adopt the preferences of the doctor in order to ensure that there is a harmonious workmanship. And then the relationship of medical secretary with patients uh, must be confidential. We are saying the medical secretary must always be confidential. Have patients just confidentiality, like we talked about. We talked about confidential information the patient is giving, the patient give to the medical secretary. Therefore, the secretary must always remain confidential, unlike disclosing and sharing health information of patients or these confidential information issues. They must not be like that. Empathy, friendliness would also help the patients to be open enough and to be easy to be at easy when it comes to every other possible examinations that might need to be done. And then we are saying tolerant towards patients because of their illnesses and diseases, sometimes they are hard and difficult to work with. So we need to say the medical secretary must at least always understand the patients, because patients, these are people who are not okay. They are sick, they've got conditions which might make them to be hyper or to be sometimes hypo, depending on whatever times and situations that they are going through. So it is actually important that a medical secretary, it is, he or she is having tolerance, is very empathy, is very friendly and confidential towards his or a patient. Let's talk about appointments. The secretary must greet them with their names, obtain all the information about the patient. When patients are making appointments, it is always important that the medical secretary greet the patients, knowing if ever he knows the names of the patients. Let's say for those who are they are admitted, the medical secretary has got files that he or she knows their names. He is very important. It is very recommendable to use their names and also obtain every important information of the patient, create a friendly environment, and make the consulting room very comfortable. Patients must be at ease. This helps to establish a good relationship that would help extensive opening up of patients and also giving of patients information that is very important with regards to their health conditions that they need treatment on. So opening up is quite something that is not easy. There is supposed to be a rapport that is created by the medical secretary, which would always enable the patients to also give back and also reflect on whatever is necessary with regards to their stay in the health facility, going through treatment and diagnosis that they need to be helped about. Managing the waiting room and sticking on the time schedule. The medical secretary must be diplomatic if the doctor takes longer with a patient. The medical secretary must be diplomatic, or something went wrong. You need to be not just be you need to be quite a lot of technical. The medical secretary cannot just talk like an educated and professional somebody. Patients with appointments must get preferences. That is, we are talking about sticking to the time schedule. Patients with appointments must always get preferences, and those requiring injections must be squeezed in between, with depending with the space and pressure in the facility. The medical secretary must be aware of names of patients and entering in the waiting room. Who are those people who are entering in the waiting room, and must quickly adopt to change plans if ever it is necessary. When a patient is late, next one must be sent in order to avoid delays. Sent in next patient to avoid delays. To avoid delays. So therefore, the doctor can be able to save as many patients as is possible to avoid delays. So it also, we are saying, ensure smooth and continuous flow of patients. This has to do with honesty. This has to do with the way the patients are being controlled. So it is the duty of the medical secretary to always manage the movement of patients in and out of the consulting room, in and out of the theater, in and out of every place where the doctor is working with them. So doctor's medical case must do what is the doctor's medical case. Doctor's medical case must do house calls regularly. His equipment and stock must be regularly checked. As a medical secretary, you need to be always on time and always alert of doctors' expectations, doctors' demands. The house calls must regularly be made. Equipment and stock must be always be checked to ensure that there is no ways that the doctor will run out of stock. Duties of the medical secretary regarding the doctor's case. What are the duties of the medical secretary regarding the doctor's case? Ensure packaging of all required staff. Specimens must be sent to laboratories. We are saying doctor's case, the medical secretary must send specimen samples. It can be specimen samples which must be sent for testing or may be sent for whatever reasons to laboratories. They must be sent on time and always be well labeled and must not get lost. Used instruments must be cleaned and sterilized. Used instruments must be cleaned and must be sterilized. That is also to keep clean of the place. Replace and refill containers and ensure all instruments are in good condition. We are talking about the safety of the workplace with regard to doctor's case, as far as the medical secretary must be able to take note of this. Safety and security. The medical secretary avoid forging of doctor's signature. Hence, prescription must be clearly put away. Keys must be placed in possession of the responsible persons. We are talking about safety and security, as in who has the right to keep the facility keys. The keys must be kept well and safe. So when lost or stolen, must be replaced immediately to avoid this must be done to avoid also trespassing and always other possible misuse and other possible errors that would arise as a result of this. So sedatives and other valuables must not be left alone. This, remember that we are in a health facility where patients might also make mistakes of using them. So these kind of drugs and other important hospital and facility equipments and resources must not be left alone. Precautionary measures must be put in place of emergency. So, such as what fire extinguishers must be readily accessible for in case of fire, and indication of which documents are important and be saved in case of fire. We are saying directions and emergency evacuation plans must always be there. If ever there are also contact details of various departments and institutions that would also help in areas of emergency, they must always be put also in place. So what we need to understand is that it is very important that such information is readily accessible. It can be contact numbers, it can be emails, whatever ways of communication which must be done. They need to be in place in order to ensure that these cannot be, there might not be problems. Let's look at telephone etiquette, the telephone manners, telephone etiquette, the expectations in terms of telephone management and telephone values and morals that are expected of a medical secretary. Phone must be answered in English or Afrikaans. If other phone rings well on the other line, on the line, tell another person to wait or hold and keep confidentiality ethics. You must actually answer phone calls in proper official languages that are allowed and are permissible within the institution or the facility that the person is working. So now we are again saying that phone calls, sometimes you have more than one line. If another phone rings well on the other line, tell another person to wait or hold. So therefore, you can be able to attend to him. Queries must be referred to the doctor. You don't solve matters on your own. There is always a communication structure and way that is important. If asked to hold calls because the doctor is busy, use personal discretion. If asked to hold calls because the doctor is busy, use personal discretion on which calls to put through. That is now to say there is a time of decision making or opportunity cost which has to do with the seriousness of the matter. There is a personal decision making that is expected of a medical secretary where he or she must identify the most important communications and calls that must pass through to the doctor and make note of account of queries not attended immediately. So therefore, you can be able to revert back to them. If sometimes the lines are overwhelming, it is always important to take note of information and communications which patients and clients are giving, and also any other relevant stakeholders that might have communicated or called through the facility. Have low voice pitch and don't talk too fast in order to ensure that communication is understandable. Be always friendly and sound fresh. You can't talk like you are very tired. There is always the communication ethics and stamina that is expected of a medical secretary. When you are on the front desk there must be liveliness. There must be a, a softy and good voice that also shows friendliness. So what we are saying is that it is always important that the medical secretary has got those telephone etiquettes, those telephone manners that are expected of him or her. And then appointment made by telephone. People, stakeholders, patients can make appointments through telephone. So what has to be done is that the medical secretary ensure correct spelling of names are entered. Ensure if it is routine appointment, that the frequency and the flow of appointments must be checked. If check if the case is a critical one or not, and give patients next appointment and provide choice of dates where possible. Dates can be given to say when can the patient come. If the possibility or the option of giving the patients to make a choice of when or how can they be able to come to through the facility. Learn to know patient preferences. Patient preferences, we are talking about facilities which has got patronage customers or clients. You need to be able to understand the dynamics and the personalities and also characters of different patients that you are dealing with. It is quite important and advisable that a medical secretary checks on that. Don't forget patients' contacts when you are entering and taking in information on telephone appointments. Ensure all queries of the patient are sorted before leaving the room. The queries, like whatever the patient has called about or called on, it has to be recorded. An appointment card or a reminder should have time and date. That is very important. So we are talking about the functionality of a medical secretary in a health facility with regards to appointments and health and safety. Also about the the confidentiality of information and the welcoming of patients in a health facility. So please take note of all these. These are just some of the basic uh, uh, requirements and ethics as well as personality expectations from a medical secretary. Thank you very much for your time, and always don't forget that you keep on following the channel. So we are also just finally looking at what the medical secretary must do when the doctor is late. Given that the doctor is late, what must be done? Must explain to the patients why they must wait. You can't just keep patients in waiting. Doctor normally calls to find information. If the doctor uh, we are saying you must always call the doctor to find information. If the doctor fails to call, the secretary must explain the doctor is busy with an emergency, and if the delay is too long, the secretary must make another appointment for that patient in order, or in a case where the doctor is late and therefore he's tied up on some emergencies. I need to let the patients away and then try to reschedule their appointments. When the doctor is sick, the medical secretary must inform all patients immediately, find doctor's permission to give an excuse for his absence. You cannot just go and give information on your own, but it must be communication that is actually given by the doctor himself. And again, patients who require immediate attention and may not wait must be referred to another doctor. You understand? There are situations and times where patients cannot be able to go home or cannot be postponed. There must be a means of getting another doctor who can actually preside or can actually help that patient. But anyway, it is a condition and communication which is sought from the doctor by the secretary. Provide substitute number for the patient to call directly and find out if the locum can see the patient. You understand? So let's talk about house calls. House calls. Doctors can visit the patients at their houses. It is quite possible. And as a medical secretary, you can be employed to assist on that. Where a doctor has to attend patients from their home or in a hospital, bear in mind schedule for house calls when making appointments. So when appointments are made, you need to be very diligent. You need to be very exhaustive in terms of considering possible destructive things that might disturb the doctor. So if the doctor won't be available at certain time, they must be certainly be taken note of. Give a doctor a list of daily visit if they are there, and all the doctor's list must always be checked regularly. Doctor's list, what he or she has to do, it must be checked regularly to identify areas of contradiction or areas of concern that might need to be rescheduled, where you might need to remind the doctor, where you might need to clarify and also clear some contrasting areas or whatsoever. As a secretary, it is quite advisable that you constantly and regularly check the doctor's list in order to have a daily visit schedule that is clean and able to be saved. So that is what we are saying. That is what it is. And thank you very much for your time. Don't forget again to keep following and also to like and subscribe. So then we can do this together. Don't forget, Metric Hub is there for you. We want to create future leaders through one click. No repeats here. We guarantee good results. We guarantee progression. We guarantee lifelong learning because education has been simplified. Let's do it together. Thank you very much.